Yeah, good evening everyone. My name is Umesh Kambli. I have been associated with CDSL since year 2005 and currently I am in charge of investor grievance as well as surveillance requirement. I will go take you through PMLA compliance requirement. Also, I'd like to inform you that currently I am also a alternate principal officer which has been reported to FIUID. So PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act, has been brought into force with effect from 1st July 2005 by an act of Parliament. Then, which are the entities who have come under a legal framework? So, reporting entities like the depository participants, brokers, banks, financial institutions, and intermediaries. Their obligation under Section 12 is that to maintain the information, furnish information, reporting and appoint principal officer and designated director. What they do, reporting entity, is they submit the information to FIUND, that is Financial Intelligence Unit. FIUND then analyzes the information, disseminate suspect FIU and provide the required information to law enforcement agencies, that is police and other people under section 66 of PMLA. In law enforcement agencies such as CBDT, CBSE, Intelligence Bureau, National Intelligence Agency, Serious Fraud Investigation Officer, CBI, ED, State Police Department, then further investigates and then they sometimes ask the required document from the DPs or other intermediaries. PMLA requirement, you can note down the various circular. The master circular is October 15, 2019. And prior to that, there are four circulars which has been issued by SEBI. First and foremost requirement for a DP is identify a principal officer. Who can be a principal officer? He should be an authorized senior officer who is having access to top management and also he should be able to function independently or to check the PMLA required. And after appointing a principal officer, his details like name, contact address, phone number, and email address has to be intimated to FIUND. So that in case any details are required by FIUND, they can directly contact principal officer. In addition to principal officer, DPs are also required to appoint designated director. Designated director should be a managing director or a whole-time director duly authorized by board of directors. What will be his responsibility? That he will ensure overall compliance with the obligation imposed under the PMLA Act in coordination with principal officer. Designated director details also needs to be informed to FIUND. Take you through some of the major responsibilities which needs to be handled by principal officer. First and foremost is the ensure compliance with PMLA Act. He will ensure and develop a mechanism to proper process to scrutinize and identify potential suspicious transaction and not only identify, it has to be timely reported to FIUND. Another thing is that whenever any request is received for information by FIU, other regulators, statutory authority, as well as CDSL, that information needs to be provided on timely basis. PMLA provision has to be made aware among all the staff, including the new staff who has been recruited recently. That has to be done. Then FIU policy, that is a return policy, has to be prepared. It has to be sent to FIUND. What that FIU policy will cover? Policy will cover first and for thing is policy for, yeah, policy for acceptance of client. So how whenever a new client is approaching for opening a demat account, what should be the procedures and how what are the documents and other things based on the client integration. Then transaction monitoring, and if any transaction is found suspicious, it has to be reported to FIND. Once the policy is framed, it has to be reviewed periodically. That periodicity has to be mentioned in the policy, and review has to be done by the officer other than the one who has originally prepared the policy. policy for acceptance of client. Principal officer should ensure that no account is open in the fictitious or Benami name. Then categorize clients under low, medium, and high risk on the basis of client background, type of business activity, and details provided by the client. This requires again client's nature of business, location, social and financial status. So that can be obtained from the person who has brought this client, and it can be monitored. Then there is one communique 3451 dated 25th January 2013, wherein some clients is permitted to act on a behalf of person. That identity has to be also verified. Checks and balances has to be implemented to ensure that identity of the client does not match with any person having known or criminal background or a ban entity. So how we will know that the person is from criminal background or ban entity? There are various sites available. Two sites are already provided on the screen: watchoutinvestors.com and worldchecks.com. So DP has to ensure that the person with criminal background or a ban entity should not open a demat account with you. Also, revisit the continuous due diligence process when there are suspicions of financing of terrorism. There are few accounts which are treated as special category, that is client of special category. These clients are always treated as high risk clients. Now, which are these high risk clients? Non-resident Indian, trust, charities, companies having close family shareholding, non-face to face client are treated as client of special category. Politically exposed persons are also should be treated as CSC because they are interested in prominent public function in a foreign country. For example, head of state of government, senior government or judicial officer. And enhanced due diligence has to be ensured for these high risk clients as well as PEPs. Whenever a PP person's demat account is getting open, it will be always required that prior approval of senior management will be obtained before opening the demat account. And principal officer is also ensure that timely access of client identification data and transaction records are accessed immediately whenever it is required. Client of high risk, such as those having unusual banking secrecy, then active in narcotic production, are subject to enhanced scrutiny of transactions. And CDSL is issuing various communiques from time to time, wherein we are mentioning the country's name also. Obtain specific additional information to identify a person who beneficially own or control the securities account. Also, identify the natural person who ultimately controls legal person. Verify customer identity using reliable and independent source document and also information. After also opening the demat account, principal officer also has to ensure that ongoing due diligence has been maintained and scrutiny of transactions and accounts are done throughout the course of business relationship. Now I'll take you to suspicious transaction meaning. What could be a suspicious transaction? Transaction which gives a reasonable ground of suspicion that may involve proceeds of crime or may involve financing of the activities relating to terrorism. Transaction which appears to be made in circumstances of unusual or unjustified complexity. That means BO ने कुछ transaction किया है but he is not able to justify why that transaction has been made. Then some transaction which have no economic rationale or bona fide purpose. No economic rationale means if the account is open and he had given a income range as 1 lakh to 1 lakh to 5 lakh, whereas the person is doing transaction regular transaction between 5 lakh to 10 lakh. So that rationally is not maintained. So that transaction may be appeared as a suspicious transaction. Though that further investigation needs to be done by the DP. Whenever any transaction has been identified, DP has to do further investigation and then file the STR within 7 days from the detection of to FIUND. Also report all attempted and abandoned transactions of suspicious nature. Ensure continuity and maintain confidentiality. Here confidentiality means whenever you are filing an STR, please ensure that BO is not made aware that उसका account का details आपने file किया है suspicious transaction के लिए. That comes ahead that prohibited for disclosing that STR has been filed. STR will be can be filed through FIUND website. They are giving the login credentials to all the intermediaries. So there you can go and file the STRs. Reports are to be uploaded in XML format. That every help document is available over there. Once you file an STR, if you are regularly filing the STR, you have to intimate the count of STRs to CDSL before 7th of subsequent month. दैट मीन्स अगर जनवरी में आपने कोई ट्रांजैक्शन STR फाइल किए है तो उसका काउंट आपको 7 फरवरी के पहले CDSL को देना है. नो नीड टू रिक्वायर्ड नील रिपोर्टिंग मीन्स आपके इफ यू आर नॉट फाइल्ड एनी STR during previous month, then no need to submit a nil report. And the record of reporting has to be maintained. Record keeping and retention of record. DP should all ensure to take a reasonable care to store hard copies of relevant document. Records are to be maintained in a such a way that retrieval should be possible within a short period. This is a most important point because sometimes FIU and D regulatory authorities or police seek some information from you, seek some document from you. And if you are not able to provide the document immediately, then that suspicion will come to you. Then that regulatory authority will doubt your intention. So it is always ensured that records are to be maintained and immediate retrieval should be possible and document details are given to the regulatory authority, including CDSL. Proper backup of soft copy should be maintained and retrieval of data should be possible within a short time. Backup भी आपने लिया है, then it is always suggested that you should periodically check the backup media चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है to ensure the data integrity. Records to be maintained so from the 8 years from the time of closing of the account. So if any account is getting closed, then you have to maintain the account opening form till 8 years. For transactions instruction, that is delivery instruction slip and other document, also 8 years from the date of the transaction. However, if any particular ongoing investigation is happening, is going on for a particular BO, then all the records has to be retained till the regulatory authority or that relevant police authority confirm to you that the case has been closed. Till that time, that record cannot be disposed of. For hiring of employee, principal officers to ensure that adequate screening for recruitment of staff is being done and ensure that staff appointed does not have any criminal suspicious background or doubtful integrity and suitable and also he is suitable to perform their duties. Regular training is most an important thing. All the staffs are to be updated what's happening in the PMLA world, so that training has to be done for all the new staff and also ongoing staff. Ongoing training program has to be done. Then also whoever their clients are there, you have to educate the client by preparing various literatures on AML as well as CFT guidelines. How CDSL supports DP for PMLA? As informed by my colleague earlier, suspicious transaction report, that is FIU alerts, are provided every fortnight. Alerts are based on various parameters that are being stored in the billing folder of the DP. DP has to download and identify if any suspicious transactions are coming out from that thing. And then most importantly, they have to maintain a register, which is called suspicious transaction register, and record the action taken for each and every files maintained. And mind you, there is a penalty for non-updation and non-maintenance of the suspicious transaction register. And in addition to alerts which has been provided by CDSL, DP has to ensure that other transactions also are getting monitored. These are some of the entities, individuals, implementation of UN Security Council, EU Common Positions and Regulation. CDSL also publishes consolidated list of individuals and entities subject to sanction measures and UNSC Resolution 1267 and 1988. In case any account or designated entity is found, details are to be conveyed through CDSL to SEBI for further action. Action from FIU and D. Whenever FIU and D seeks any information from you, and if you are failed to give that information or they found that there is some issue at your end, first they will issue a warning in writing. Then they will give a direction to designated director or any of its employee to comply with specific instruction. They will also direct to send the report at such interval and case to case basis on the measures taken. Even if for the non-compliance, monetary penalty is being levied on the registered intermediaries director, which will be not less than 10,000 and up to 1 lakh for each failure. So for each failure, there is a penalty between 10,000 to 1 lakh. These are the triggers which we CDSL has identified, but DP should not restrict themselves to that. They can have their own triggers depending on their experience. Artificial volume creation, high value deals, match volume, client's volume with resources at privacy, which I have explained earlier that his income range is not matching with their transaction. Some specific script has been concentrated which have unusual price or volumes where the person is doing regular transaction. High value off market transfers, high value transaction in a new account or dormant account. Then small quantity frequent transaction is being happening. Corporate action. Apart from that, any alerts which has been raised by an employee based on media reports or LEA, that is law enforcement agencies. Customer verification wherein customer left without opening the demat account. Customer has offered false or forged identification document. The address given by customer found to be wrong. There is a difficulty to identify beneficiary owner. Law enforcement agency query where the customer is being investigated for criminal or terrorist financing offenses. Last but and not the least, media reports where adverse media reports are being published about the criminal activity, terrorist activities, financial activity of the customer, and then customer details match with watch list. Exchanges have issued circular on 1st July 2021 to all the clearing member and trading member, wherein exchanges have regularly doing surveillance on the trading activities by various individuals through a trading member or broker. Then it was decided that surveillance activity, why not do a surveillance activity on a demat account? Till that time, it was done on trading account, so it has been extended to demat account also. Accordingly, CDSL has issued communique number 309 on July 15, 2021. Some of the points which have been importantly highlighted, I will go through that. First and foremost thing is that to frame a surveillance policy, generate additional surveillance alert, continuous client due diligence, reporting the status of alert generated by DPs, then compliance officer as well as internal auditor or concurrent auditor obligation in respect of surveillance alert, quarterly reporting of the status for alerts generated by DPs. Then there will be penalty for late or non-submission of quarterly reporting of status, disciplinary action for non-fulfillment of surveillance obligation by the DP. When we say DP has to generate additional surveillance alert, so there are 9 different of alerts which depository has identified which DP can generate at their end. I have listed. We have listed out some examples which are there right on your screen. Alert for account open with same PAN, mobile number, email ID, considering the existing demat account held with the DP. That means BO are opening multiple demat account with same PAN, same mobile number, email ID. so that your DP system should generate an alert which can be further investigated by the DP. Alert for communication, that is email or letter sent on the register email ID or address and which is getting bounced. So that is an alert. Then DP has to take the necessary action why that email or is getting bounced or why the letters are getting undelivered. Then BO is making frequent changes in the demat account such as address, email ID, mobile number, authorized signatory or POA holder. Frequent off-market transfer are being done by your BO in a specified period. In PMLA also we have mentioned about this off-market transfer which does not commensurate with income net worth, off-market transfer as well as place transaction. Then there is one alert you can generate from your system where off-market transfer has been happen immediately after modification in the demat account. So that leads to suspicion. That leads to an alert which you have to further investigate at your end. Then review of reason code for off-market transfer provided by client, such as transfer with reason code, gift with consideration, frequent transfer with reason code, gifts, donation to unrelated parties, frequent transfer with reason code off-market itself. So, for example, if a client is continuously doing off-market transfer with a reason code, gift and donation in small quantity, so that leads to a suspicion. Alert for newly open account wherein an increase in transaction has been identified in a short period of time and suddenly holding in a demat account becomes zero or account becomes dormant after some time. That means 10th फरवरी को अकाउंट ओपन हो गया, 11 फरवरी को इमीडिएटली उसके अकाउंट में क्रेडिट आ गया, 13 फरवरी को उसने कुछ ऑफ मार्केट ट्रांसफर किया एंड 14 को उसने क्लोज किया. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग वन एग्जांपल. इट कैन वेरी फ्रॉम डीपी टू डीपी एंड केस टू केस. So that leads to a suspicious alert. Apart from that, any other alert which DP feels at based on their experiences throughout this year, they can generate many more alert and not restrict themselves in that. Compliance officer obligation, they have to confirm to surveillance policy which we have already passed on the date, and we have received confirmation from all the existing DP, but who are the new DPs are coming. So this is a point for internal auditor and concurrent auditor whenever they are going to audit a new DP who has recently joined CDSL, ensure that they frame a surveillance policy and they intimate that to CDSL at email ID cdsl@cdslindia.com. DP has to generate the difference alert which I have explained you above. Apart from generating alert, DP has to maintain a register either electronic or physical for recording all alerts which has been generated. DP shall ensure that all the alerts which are generated at their end or at CDSL end are reviewed and status thereof, that is verified or closed or reported to depository, including action taken, is updated within 30 days. So all whatever alerts you are generating at your end should not be reported to CDSL. You have to verify it, review it, take a confirmation from the BO, and if you feel that the justification given by the BO is satisfactory, you can close the alert at your end, and only the adverse observation needs to be reported to CDSL within 7 days from the date of identification of the adverse observation. Compliance officer plays main role, so all the surveillance activity of the DP will be conducted under overall supervision of the compliance officer. Internal auditor of the DP has to review the surveillance policy. Its implementation means whatever has been mentioned in the policy, whether it has been implemented by the DP or not, the effectiveness, whatever alerts which has been generated by the DP or by CDSL, whether that has been reviewed periodically on time to time, that has to be done by internal auditor, and they have to mention that in their report. DPs are also required to provide duly approved status of the alert on a quarterly basis to CDSL within 15 days from the end of the quarter. So for every quarter, for example, October, November, December, that quarter, DP has to submit the quarterly report within to CDSL by 15 January. For January, February, March, that report has to be submitted by 15th April. Ensure that that will be submitted to CDSL by 15th April.